Have you ever been using a champion and then had the thought, how far do I think I'd be able to get if I only used this champion? Well, I had that thought, and then I used the power of free will to put that to the test. With my Serpent freshly taken to rank 4, I'd occasionally been theory crafting on how I think he'd be able to deal with different bosses people have probably never tried him for. And then I kept thinking about it, and eventually I decided I want to see if my suspicions were correct. I think Serpent can solo all of Book 1's story quests by himself. By this, however, I mean that I will be taking every fight in the quest with only Serpent, but I will have synergies. To counterbalance this, I'm also going to be doing every quest itemless. I feel like that's a fair trade-off, and if you don't agree, well, too bad, I've already posted the video. Serpent doesn't have any major synergies that are 100% crucial to being able to play him, so I'm probably going to be swapping around my synergies fairly often. Basically, anything that increases my damage is what I'm going for. Also, just so people don't think I'm going to be cheating, I'll try and keep all my synergy champs as 4 stars, but I have faith that you guys can trust me. With the premise in place, let's get into it. Yep, that's it. That's the whole fight, and that's all I'm going to be doing for the first 3 acts. While I almost certainly don't need to do acts 1 through 5, I'm still going to do them anyways, just so I can confidently say that I did use only Serpent throughout all of story mode. Act 6 is where this is going to get interesting though, so if you want to skip ahead to the timestamp on screen, then go ahead. Otherwise, these fights are here for completionism's sake. be honest, not having a passive stun caught me off guard. However, there's only a select few fights I wanted it for, so I think I'll be able to manage. At least I still get the attack bonus. Alright, Act 5 is down. No major hiccups there, although it certainly took a fair chunk of energy refills out my stash. I'll probably have to start buying them now to be able to finish up Act 6, but otherwise, that was a pretty smooth run through Act 5. Act 6, however, is going to require a fair bit more planning, so let's start pushing into it. Now that we're in Act 6, we'll have to start dealing with the global nodes. Most of these won't pose too much of a threat, but there are some which will be potentially annoying to deal with. A lot of difficulty that comes with the global nodes relied on the defenders having a stat advantage, however with a 7-star rank 4 Serpent, the potency gets watered down a fair bit. With 6.1.1, no retreat will still need to be dealt with properly, but I'll have a good safety net to work with due to Serpent's high health. 6.1.2 has the infamous Biohazard Sentinel, which usually requires someone with full bleed immunity to survive the constant onslaught of bleed damage. As luck would have it, Serpent reduces the duration of inflicted bleeds by 90%, which for this purpose is more than enough. As for the Ultron, usually shock immunity is recommended, but Odin's Stormbreaker pre-fight gives Serpent a 90% resistance to shock effects, which is also plenty for this fight. 6.1.5 Crossbones also somewhat poses a threat where he'll drain 100% of my health within 30 seconds for a poison debuff. While Serpent does not have any poison resistance or immunity, I can at least guarantee I'll survive due to the willpower mastery. 6.2.2 was the first quest I deemed to be nearly impossible without a proper plan. To figure out why, let's break it down. First of all, let's look at Sinister by himself. Originally, I thought he had Power Snack, which nullifies buffs, but thankfully that wasn't the case. However, I knew for certain that he had Caustic Temper. Caustic Temper means that every time I hit Sinister, I would have a 50% chance to be inflicted with a poison debuff dealing a good percentage of my health. Over the course of a full 335,000 health fight, there is almost no chance I would be able to deal with this. The second part of Caustic Temper, which requires the attacker to have a Fury buff, thankfully is already dealt with due to Serpent's kit, where he gains a permanent Fury buff at the start of the fight. Second of all, the global node also really limits my options here, that being Backblast. Backblast means that Serpent's significantly heightened attack will play against him. Big crits from Serpent are almost guaranteed to surpass 5% of the defender's health, and all that damage would be placed back onto me. And this isn't even just for Sinister, this is the global node, so I'll have to be extra careful for every path defender as well. So, I can't reliably hit Sinister, and if I do choose to hit Sinister, the massive crits I'll inevitably get are going to not only deal less damage because it's Sinister, but the damage will be reflected back to me. From the wording of the Caustic Temper node, even hitting his block sounds like it'll be placing poisons on me. What can I even do here? There was only one option I found. Make use of Serpent's power gain buffs and use only special 3s to take down Sinister. This route would avoid all the issues I would face otherwise, as special 3s cannot crit so I won't heal Sinister nor take backblast damage, They don't technically hit the opponent, so I'll avoid the caustic temper poisons, and they'll also help me build up my damage for future special 3s. I don't know if this is enough, so I'm just gonna have to get in there and see if it'll work. Oh, that's a big crit! Oh, that's a lot of damage. Okay, no special 2s, got it. Oh, that's a lot of damage. Wait, that might kill. It killed! No way that actually worked. That's so cool. With the champion boss down, we now approach the toughest act by far and probably of all of Act 6. Anyone who has fought Serpent knows how painful his block damage can be, and I'll be pushing it to the extreme here. Medusa takes no damage outside blocked hits and bleeds, and given that Serpent has no bleeds, I have no other choice. I have to hit into her block to deal damage, except I'll be fighting against Explosive Personality, which deals a quarter of my health every time I do 5 hits. My plan for this fight is to spam Special 3 as much as I can. Firstly, so I can regain my Fury buff, but also because it'll significantly ramp up my Cold Force charges. This is helped by a very specific line in a Special 3, where if the attack deals 0 damage, I'll regain 2 bars of power over 1 second. This means I'll be able to ramp my damage quickly and overstack a ton of Fury passives. Then, once I've ramped my damage as best I can, I just need to throw everything I can into Medusa's block and hope it is enough. That might have honestly been cooler than the Sinister kill. That was amazing. Six 6.3.6 Cap Infinity Ore feels like the last boss that could cause me issues for Act 6. My plan is to throw on recoils and boost up my damage the best that I can and just pray for some good crit RNG. A rank 4 Serpent most certainly has the health to tank at least one special 3, but at worst I can probably tank 2 or 3 thanks to death immunity and time duel. Given the crits I've seen previously, I should be able to get him down without too much going wrong. And just to be careful, I'm only going to hit him when destructive feedback is down, mainly to avoid taking a dumb hit and throwing away a bunch of health. Also, when's the last time you've seen this synergy get used on purpose? And to finish this video off, we'll be doing a pretty stock standard Grandmaster takedown. His special 1 and 2 both have damaging effects which count for the callout, and Serpent can very easily deal with every other callout the Grandmaster throws. I'll be going with the evaluation route as that's just my personal favourite.
And there you go, there is every single quest in Book 1 soloed using only Serpent, not to mention Itemless. I'm pretty proud of this result, and hopefully you've enjoyed watching me find different solutions to nearly run-ending bosses and quests. Obviously, people knew that Serpent was a powerful champion, but I think it's interesting to see just how far you can stretch his power. Thank you very much for watching, and if you'd like to see me try my hand at Book 2, let me know in the comments, and I hope to see you again soon. Take care everyone.